continue to make losses? How do you sustain that?
So they don't when they make losses, but they more or less break even. So it's not like they built a factory for $40 million and then they lost like 20 million. No, what happens is that they will probably lose, like, especially now, they lose like $1 million, for example. And then they issue new shares. And then in that period, they had 1 million customers, or like a 100% increase in the customer base. So you buy their shares, even though you know that they didn't make money, but because you can see the future, that the way this company is growing at this rate, they will be able to make money in the future. So they always balance out in a way.
Really, I think the pressure of profit comes from shareholders.
Yeah, so, but they have shareholders, that's my point.
Dividends.
So, but then that is another thing that's important to mention. In the US, people aren't as big on dividends as they are in Nigeria. People are more interested in capital gains.
Yeah.
So I bought a share for $10. I rather that it grows to $20. Don't give me dividend.
So
I'm not interested.
So if their investor relations strategy is so high that
people who see their vision,
the people who
it has come up a couple of times, and Jeff Bezos had to tell them that, sorry, this company is not a company. If you are here for dividends, please get out.
Yeah.
He has been blunt like that in some shareholder meetings that were held, and the guy was saying bluntly, sorry, if you are asking this kind of question, you're in the wrong company.
Absolutely.
That's what we're doing here.
So it speaks back to our conversation around understanding your environment and what you can do and not do. I'm not sure an Amazon will be successful in Nigeria. Shareholders will have beaten the guy up by now.
Yeah.
And just come and say, no dividend. Since, you understand?
Exactly. And I would also want to know when they started. Was that what their strategy was from the one?
When they started,
Yes.
they were selling books.
Yeah.
They were not Amazon like what we know them.
Yeah, know them today.
They were selling
online
books.
stuff.
And their plan wasn't to grow their shares, but to probably make profit.
They were selling books. He was trying to gain market share, and then he just realized that let me start selling other things. And other things were making up for, but they were losing money in selling books, but they were making money from selling other things.
Bags, everything.
And that's what they do, and that's why I said that they are losing money. You should take it with a pinch of salt. So, for example, Amazon has web services, very profitable.
And video and
They have all those Amazon Prime where people subscribe.
Yeah, Amazon Prime.
$100 a year for you to be part of Amazon Prime. You get faster delivery, you get free music,
you get some things, you get some
free quotes is on.
Get some freebies, you pay for it.
You pay for it exactly, but they say you get some free things. So, for example, called Amazon Prime, every year they have guaranteed income. Whether you use your Amazon,
like annuity,
not $100 from like how many people, and that keeps growing. So their share price grows every year. You look at their share, like she said, people that are looking at it that okay, I bought Amazon $200 per share, and in just 5 years, this $200 turned to $500. You don't care if it's giving dividend or not. It's not this
I'm
one.
just trying to see if I can still change
This one is not. This is display. It has to be that your settings, your power. Sorry, please go back to it again. Let's just try. How can it if it's?
As you pass, you say, go to learn.
Okay, choose what the power. Choose what the.
Should we check this one as well?
No, if you you are currently on customized pick. If you go to this power saver.
You even go off even sooner.
Yes. It's still settings. So, okay, sorry. Change plan settings again. This one. Let's see. What's going on?
Because it's never turn off. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure what else to change.
Then it's still.
What else is advanced power settings?
That one is open. Maybe let's try. Yeah, this is it. So let's go to the sleep. No, this one. Sleep after. Let's see what's there. Sleep after. Wow.
No. Okay, so let's just carry on. So another characteristic is variety of product designs. As more and more people enter into the market, people will be trying out different things. So there's most likely will be a lot of variety to choose from. Then radical product or process innovation, major demands for new investments. Makes sense. I mean, if the market is growing, you have to keep on expanding to keep up with the demand. Products are characterized by frequent bugs and defects, especially for complex products. So, of course, this is a function of the type of industry. So, maybe like a high-tech industry. Going back to our GSM example, people had lots of issues with those initial phones because they were just still, the technology was still relatively new and everybody was still trying to fine-tune it. Unlike now where a lot of those things those issues we used to have with phones now, nobody really has those kind of issues anymore. So at that early stage, we might have a lot of issues with the product. Capacity shortages, which speaks to the previous point, number 7, about new investments, because capacity will be pretty short compared to demand. Easy entry into the market, once again, that's a function of the industry. Some industries don't have easy entry, even at the growth stage. Think about our GSM example. To get a license to be a GSM provider in Nigeria, so that's not easy entry. It wasn't easy entry. So that doesn't always apply. But I mean, if you think of a simpler example, like the pure water example that I gave, that one is a lot easier at that stage. A few firms in the early stages, patchy or limited distribution, especially for a really new product in the market. Now, the maturity stage, people will be getting more price sensitive. Yeah? Now you have many options to choose from. You get a lot more price sensitive than before. Like the example you gave of Glow, by the time Glow came onto the picture, by then people had been clamoring and shouting for per second billing. People were getting more price sensitive. Unlike at the beginning, people didn't have the choice, so they settled for whatever they got. But people realized that I should be able to save some money. Then Glow came, and a lot of people jumped on Glow because of that. A lot of people migrated to Glow because of that. Falling prices, yes. Brand advertising, more important. It's maturity stage. There are 1,000,001 toothpaste brands in Nigeria. 1,000,001. So if you want anybody to know your brand, you had better be advertising. Otherwise, it's whatever I see that I will buy. At that stage, there are so many options. So if you don't make your brand visible, nobody will know you exist. And for that reason alone, you may not make good sales at that maturity stage, because there are so many options. Enter into the supermarket, 1,001 brands, 1,000 imported, local, all sorts.
The names are not
They are not even interested. Do you understand? So you may not, if you don't see it, you may never think of buying it. And for some people, they want to keep it safe. Stay with the tried and tested. I'm not going to experiment, especially for certain things. Maybe for something like tissue. For someone like me, I'm looking for the cheapest brand when I go shopping for toilet roll. I look for the cheap brand that doesn't look too cheap. So somewhere in between there. You can say my 200 naira for euro for what? I beg, So, but my point is, at that maturity stage, you need to make your brand visible. Otherwise, you might lose out and you lose market share. Okay? Mostly increased standardization. Yes, profitability is beginning to decline. Of course, if price is falling, most likely profitability too will start to fall, because your cost is going to either remain constant or is also growing. So profitability will be impacted. Increased standardization, depending of course on the type of products, but people would start to tend towards an acceptable design that everybody is comfortable with. Think about mobile phones. At the beginning, we had all sorts of funny shaped phones, which was that let's go Triumph. Some of those really Triumph ahead. That really big one. But you notice that most phones are tending towards about the same. the same. Do you understand? Everybody is now tending towards the same design. The market is maturing, so a bit more standardization, standard features, and basic things you want to see in a phone now. Maybe before it didn't matter, but now, standardization, market is maturing. Replacement investment is more important. Okay, incremental innovation, emphasis on process innovation. So I mean, you're already in a maturing market, so it's not about discovering something entirely new. It's about improving on what already exists. Replacement investment is emphasized. Improve quality and reliability of design. Capacity may settle to match demand. Entry becomes more difficult and less attractive possible due to change advantages of low cost operation and brand loyalty. Because people now have the brand that they are more comfortable with. So you might be facing very stiff competition if you try to enter into that kind of market. Not impossible, of course, but it might be more difficult. Many firms, well-established distribution channels. Yeah. Then finally, the decline stage. The market that is declining. You're almost begging people to buy your product. So the extremely high price elasticity. You cannot afford to sell it at an expensive price. You'll be selling it at banjo so that this is still go. Otherwise, you're stuck with the product. Price will continue to fall. Lack of both differentiation and growth creates little role or room for advertising. If the market is really declining, it's literally dying, I'm not sure what the point is in spending money on advertising. Your focus should be on how to get rid of the existing stock, so that at least you're not stuck with it and then you're looking for what to do with it at the end of the day. So, low or negative profits, further standardization, little innovation, little investment, well-established designs, few bugs, overcapacity, of course, if you're not producing as much as you should be. Entry is definitely unattractive at a decline stage. Fewer firms, because people will try to exit, of course, depending on the kind of industry that it is. Distribution and access to distribution channels is now more important for firms. Alright, so there's a table here that just sort of tries to summarize some of these things to make it easy. So these are some of the concepts from marketing, hands off. So if you're in a market, existing products, just concepts that you can apply. If you had a question that spoke to this, you could actually speak to it, in your exam. So macro environment, pestle, forecasting, environmental scanning, scenario planning. Remember this as well, BCG. So these are things that if you are in an exam that speaks to this and you have the time, you can actually speak to them as well. Like Tim will always say, apropos. No, I'm saying if it does, so it's not they're not core to the course. But if you had a course that if you had a question and you want to do show a bit of oversabi, yes, would be useful too. All right. So this was the iPod when it first came out. I'm not sure anybody buys the iPod anymore. Are you stop producing it?
I know they stopped producing the small ones. I don't know. They've stopped producing this one.
The iPods, yeah. Oh, really?
Really?
What do I need it for now? If I have an iPhone, what do I need an iPod for again? I'm not sure. Absolutely. But I'm not sure they regret it though.
No, because
I think they modified it to become all these products we have now. From iPod to
iPhone. The iPad.
Now
Yeah.
into iPhone.
So a mature product, PC, a dozen and one options out there. Although I don't know if price is as important in the PC market as it is in some other mature markets.
So for price, they've also kind of trained the customers. So everybody kind of expect the same way. Also for like phones, if Samsung should bring or iPhone should bring, there's a new iPhone or a new Galaxy, you're already trained to expect the price to be like 300, 400k.
So they're still using our heads in short.
So even if they reduce their costs, they will still bring it out at that
price.
1,000, but they trained you already to expect it. Samsung will say, okay, we can't compete with iPhone, let me bring it out at 100,000.
Price.
Because you have been trained. So if the price is even low, you're like, this phone is not good.
Must have
Trained
something.
Something wrong, this is not quality, there's something wrong with this one. When it's 300, that's the one that I want to see.
They're using our heads in short.
Yes,
Okay.
basically.
So this is definitely a product that has declined. Telegram. I'm not sure anybody's still using. I don't even know if it's still in existence. So this also gets tested. Variety of strategies that a firm in a declining stage can pursue. So a market that is declining. So we sort of talked about some of them. Of course, exiting is one of the options. But other than to exit, you can try to gain dominance or leadership, which is a high market share, can give a cost advantage and may allow the firm to exercise some control over price. So if you're a leader in the market, you're leading the market even though it's about to decline, you can still control the market as it were, because you clearly have the largest chunk of the market. Dominance can be facilitated if the firm can assist in easy exit for its rivals, acquiring others in the industry at terms that are reasonably attractive to its rival. Dominance may be facilitated if the firm can make a credible commitment to stay in this industry. Of course, that would be a function of what kind of industry we are talking about. If it's declining and it's going to die completely, I'm not sure why you're making credible commitment to stay in the industry. But if it's an industry that will still exist, but maybe, of course, very few people still need that product or service, then that can make sense. So once again, it all depends on the reality on ground. Niche exploitation. This strategy identifies a niche that allows continuing high returns and long-term opportunities, e.g. the advent of color meant negative image developed for black and white photography. Generally, nobody's really using that anymore, but there are still people who use it. In the medical field, for instance, x-rays, they still do black and white photography. So you can find a niche for yourself and stay relevant in that market. Harvest. This is about maximizing short-term cash flows through devices such as limiting variety of models or brands, concentrating on larger customers and cutting investments, maintenance and service costs. It's not sustainable indefinitely, and eventually harvest turns into divestment. It's not a strategy that is suitable for all industries and depend on the firm living off the fat created in the past. So it's really about maximize it's like trying literally getting rid of your existing stock. Let's just sell them at the highest price possible and make as much money and leave the industry. That's really what harvesting is. Of course, exiting is exit. Sell everything off and get out of the industry. Yeah? When I say something, Peter. Internalize the threats. Now this speaks to where you have like an external threat to the industry. So something from the outside, like a technological change is about to happen and it's going to send your industry into decline and to no longer be used. So let me think of a good example, like when mobile phones came versus landlines. As a landline company, I can internalize the threat by changing my modes of operation and my systems and everything to start to sell mobile phones as well, so that I can still stay in the market. But if I insist on continuing with my landline, nobody's buying them anymore, then I know I'm going to go out of existence. So that's what internalizing the threat is about. So there's a new technology coming in, I jump on it as well and change my model, my process, everything to take advantage of this new technology. Rather than let it kill me, I would go with the flow.
Coca-Cola just acquired Chi.
Acquired Chi.
Yesterday I posted something in the marketing class. So now they just launched Chivita brands in Democratic Republic of Congo.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
And the idea is that people are losing interest in sugar.
Carbonated drinks. Not maybe not sugar, but carbonated drinks.
Yeah, the fizzy drinks and all.
So there's sugar in Chivita too. It's not bobo.
To shift to juice. So the juice market is becoming more interesting. And so initially they acquired 40% till like 2016. I mean 2016
so they've increased their shareholding.
They bought them over completely.
100%.
So now just this month we rolled Chivita in Congo. So it's more like internalizing. It's a threat.
It's a major threat to them, and I think that's
where did it come from?
Nigeria.
No, but it's not owned by Nigerians. It was not originally owned by Nigerians.
That's what I wanted to
owned
know.
by Nigerians.
No, Chivita is not owned by Nigerians.
Really?
It's not owned by
It's
Nigerians.
owned by German or something.
It's not owned by Nigerians.
Guys are cashed out.
Wow, the guy has cashed out.
Yes, so after making plenty money in Nigeria, because one of the few juice
like
companies
this.
still in
They
existence.
killed Tribalize.
I like
So
this
many of them are
Chivita
gone
killed
on.
When you
That
read
is
G,
what they came back for.
you know,
Chivita killed
G
Tribalize.
sounds more like an Igbo name. Yes, when it first came out those days, we thought it was something done by Nigerian.
Me, I just thought
It's
it
a
was
German.
Nigerian. I didn't know it was.
No,
I'm sure that's what its own strategy was. To just
Yes.
And they're the, but the only surviving juice company.
Yeah.
Very few. I mean,
There was a time Obasanjo
they
made
come,
this.
they go, they come, they go.
Obasanjo made
But
this
Chivita
rule of
thing-
no more importation of
Juice.
juice. That it should be 100%
Favor them.
Nigerian.
Mm.
Favor them like that's when
sometimes
they,
I thought they were.
that's when they scaled.
They blew
But
up.
there were a lot of other brands that also died.
Yeah, but their products were also very good and close to being natural. Five Alive and
But
the
that's how
the
they,
rest.
that's what they, that's how they
That's the position.
themselves.
Yeah.
The position is that way. The
Yes.
position because there was this other one. I can't remember the name now. It was an F name. But also it's very
Fullman.
good. Fullman. But they also
Fullman.
died. They
Yeah.
died.
No, they still
That's really they still exist.
Yes, you still
Where?
have their products.
Really?
Where?
You can't see it
Still
anywhere
in the
anymore.
supermarket.
You can't see it
I was
anymore.
there.
Yeah, it's there.
There
Even
are
in
quite a
Spa.
number of them.
Yeah,
Fullman,
Fullman
there's,
is still
there's
there.
something from
But
Village,
because you
Beverage.
are not even interested in it, so you won't even bother.
No, I actually liked Fullman when it
Fullman
existed.
is
But I didn't
It was
see
not-
it
I
again
think
after
it
a
was in
while.
Ibadan or somewhere.
This
And it was more natural.
There
Mm-hmm.
was another one in
Interesting.
Ibadan, New Age Beverage. What was their product now? All these series are now
Oh, okay.
from New
There's
Age.
series, yes.
Mm.
And there's Farm Fresh now.
Interesting. So yeah, so that's a very good example of. So other examples: the TV replacing cinema, plastic replacing steel. Swatch Digits is the watch industry. So where they turn their watches into a fashion accessory, as against just a utility product. So now that takes us to the 5 forces framework. I think it's also another element from marketing. 5 forces framework. So Potter was trying to identify the elements or the forces that impact an industry, profitability of an industry, or how attractive an industry is, the things that can affect it at level of attractiveness. So the 5 forces are your threat of new entrants. Is it easy to enter into that industry? How easy it is? If it's very high, it's very easy for more people to come into the industry, it will make your industry a bit less attractive than if it takes an high initial cost to enter into the industry. Yeah. We also talked about bargaining power of suppliers,
Bargaining
power of buyers, level of rivalry in the industry, and the final one is threat of substitutes. Yes, thank you. So those are the 5 forces, and we try to delve into those 5 forces in detail, the factors that affect each of those forces and how they interplay to make an industry attractive or unattractive. Okay. So where the forces are intense, firm may have little opportunity to achieve above average returns and vice versa. Industry in the framework refers to a group of firms producing products that are close substitutes for each other. Now, you recognize that these same elements were the basis on which successful firms competed and added value in the marketplace. There are some important points in using the framework. As the industries are continually evolving, the framework is not static, but is subject to continuous modification and updating. Some elements in the 5 forces may encourage different types of strategic options. So 2 different analysts with the same knowledge about an industry may come to different conclusions about the strength and nature of competitive forces in that industry. The 5 forces framework is more about possible constraints on strategy, less about the particular direction that strategy can take. So just trying to understand what are those things that can impact on our strategy as a firm.
Sorry, so the 5 forces framework are basically things that can impact on the strategies of the company.
Yes. So it's impact on the industry. So of course it's going to affect your strategy. So whether if they are very unattractive, if these things make the industry unattractive, you're going to have to think about how you're going to, survive in that kind of unattractive industry. That's it essentially. So just an example of how some of this plays out. An industry will be an attractive environment for a firm if new firms are about to enter the firm. So it's very easy to enter into the firm, into the industry. There's intense competition from rivals in that same industry. It's a highly competitive industry. People are constantly having price wars. People are constantly undercutting each other, doing all sorts of things. You know that's not a very attractive industry to enter. So if you want to enter that kind of industry, you must have your plan well thought out. The firm faces a powerful set of buyers. So where you're in an industry where the people who buy from you are very powerful, so they can negotiate with you, they can demand certain things from you. So that would be, when you think about buyers, you need to also, it's usually more relevant maybe where you have like a B2B business, where you sell to other businesses. Typically, maybe not, where you're selling to consumers, because especially those, I don't know how so many consumers can be that powerful, but usually it's more relevant when you're thinking about a B2B business where people who buy from you are companies themselves, and if you don't have that many companies that need your product, for instance, they might have power over you, so they can negotiate, they can insist that you go abide by certain terms if you're going to sell to them. Means that they're a powerful set of buyers.
Yeah, sorry, but then of buyers, there was a time that during this Fulani headment crisis, that people called for boycott of cows. Could that be?
Yeah, but nobody answered that.
If people did it,
absolutely. The only way I can say
it
is, so the one I was thinking before, it's like when lecturer says something, automatically I think of ways to counter it. So I was trying to think of what.
I didn't hear that.
As when you said that is most likely to occur during like B2B, in my head I was just trying to think of like a way where I could prove the scenario. Yeah. So the only one I could think of is like businesses that depend a lot on their public perception. So for example, like the human for industry or something like that. All those businesses where maybe they say they are not being or like cruelty to animals, or like all these Nike where they say they're using sweatshops, there's children that are making the shoes, therefore everybody should boycott it. But she's still right, it's difficult to say if you have like a million people buying your stuff for everybody to
some people will vex, but it really impacts you directly that much. No, it's usually more when you have a few
one buyer or two buyers.
Yes. If they tell you that this is how much you're paying, you beg.
You beg when you're talking about distributors.
Yeah.
Just one distributor who is distributing your product, just one person. And then that person can influence.
Yes.
There's
not only a distributor. The distributor is not necessarily buying from you. So it's actually part of your value chain.
Yes.
So I'm not really sure if the distributor is a good example.
But the distributor has his own company.
Let me think of another example. So think about somebody who generates maybe nuclear power.
Yes.
How many people need nuclear power? Probably only have only one buyer, which is the government.
Okay.
Do you understand? So that government is extremely powerful. Okay. The government says, you know what, we don't need the nuclear power anymore.
We discussed this in the marketing class. Two ways you could. So I want to cite two examples. One, for example, you are a wheat farmer. You only have two major, either a Guinness or Nigerian breweries is buying from you.
Or flour mills, people that use wheat.
The big users.
Yeah.
If they all choose to go back into backward integration,
you're in trouble.
Go farm.
Absolutely, and we'll speak about backward
integration.
That's why I do. Yeah, so it's one of the things that you would consider in terms of what gives you power. When it gives your buyers power, if they can actually threaten backward integration, then they have power over you. So you want to be mindful of that in whatever policy or strategies you want to implement. Yeah. So powerful buyers. A firm faces powerful set of suppliers. That's also like the flip side of what we just talked about. Then external threats about to send the industry into long-term decline. We talked about a declining industry and the options that are open to such a company in a declining industry. So if you're in a declining industry where you have sunk a lot of investment, people might get desperate and say, whatever it takes, I will make this money back before I leave this industry. Yeah, so it can heighten the rivalry in the industry. There'll be price wars, people are doing anything to undercut each other, like going all out to even badmouth the other brand, anything to make money and keep as large a chunk of the market share as possible. And then the flip side, so like when I talked about web buyers that is dispersed and weekly organized, so when you have, so think about DSTV, how they always use us to do yo-yo anyhow they like. But can we really do anything? The answer is no.
Because barrier to entry is high.
Yes, I was like, how many options are there? Question came out. Where they come and buy question money? They packed up already.
They fucked up.
TSTV made all the
That's what I'm saying. So
Never
That one I thought they would.
honestly, I was
I think there was a go
It's
CD or
expensive.
something.
Anybody that wants to enter that business,
it's a
first
lot.
of all, cannot think in terms of only Nigeria, think Africa.
Yes,
Get ready to lose like at least $400 million.
Yeah.
Just get
Tax
ready
savings.
first for you to be serious. Because for you, you get because of the way they negotiate all those rights. So Premiership rights, unfortunately, they see Africa. They don't sell it in Nigeria as Africa. They'll sell Africa rights. So when they want to do the bidding, get ready. You have to bid higher than DSTV.
absolutely.
So you will lose money.
And if you do that, when you win, how are you going to?
Exactly. That's why you have to be ready to
lose
go into Africa. But if you are based only in Nigeria, you have Africa rights. Usually, what these people were doing in high TV there, they bought the rights, they now sold to because they're only in Nigeria. They now started selling that okay, obviously we're not in Gambia. Okay, you will come and buy. That's why they're trying to make
People will offer you peanuts.
but they're still losing money
Yeah, people will offer you peanuts.
because they know you don't have a choice. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's just to get us to think about how some of these things play out. So in that kind of industry, it's not that easy to get in. So people that are in there, I don't know that they can do anything to DSTV except to find a replacement.
What will kill them is people other
Maybe
effect of
Netflix,
substitutes.
yes,
Exactly.
the Netflix of this
All these
world.
Netflix, people will be streaming instead.
And they will start because I know a lot of people that don't bother with their DSTV anymore because of Netflix.
That's what they're trying to do. All this rent. What do you call
They
it?
have their
How much
videos
do you
now.
see in
Movie if
Netflix?
you want to watch it.
How much do you see in Netflix? You see series.
Yes, but
Series and
okay, so
series and few movies.
Amazon Prime that I use because it is free, quote unquote. The Amazon videos that they show. You're right, they have series, but they've started venturing into, for example, Amazon Video shows one Premiership match now every weekend. They show some NFL, National American football games. So they started spreading into all those live events that DSTV, because that's DSTV's strength.
Yes.
You are buying DSTV because you want to watch football.
Premiership.
And basically all those live events that you cannot download or stream later, like series and co. If you take that from them, they are severely
done.
weakened.
Okay, but
If there's no
this is
people in
when
this
they
thing, they
came,
won't buy
Quasi
this.
TV came
Absolutely.
in basketball.
Which one?
Yes.
Because DSTV doesn't show basketball.
Which one is that?
Question
Quasi
TV.
TV.
Oh,
So
really?
they had
Oh,
NBA,
look at them
they had
now.
the rights to NBA, but
Oh, look
nobody,
at them now.
when people were watching it, they show NBA, the live matches are in the evening.
But not
Nigerian
really
time,
basketball,
you are asleep.
basketball.
When you
DSTV
are
now,
showing.
surprisingly, they've started even doing videos, Nigerian movies.
Series now.
No, I mean on their movies like Netflix.
Oh, not only on African Magic.
Yeah.
Yes, not only.
Oh, really?
So you can now pay and subscribe, but if you don't watch it within a period, you lose it.
As in DSTV.
And then
Yeah,
DSTV.
Yes, now as in the
Box
Box office.
box office.
Box office.
Just box office,
yeah, box
just
office.
like Netflix.
So that's their attempt to try and
Yes,
I mean,
stay relevant.
Yes,
Continually.
So no matter where you come from as a competitor, I remember
If I
DSTV
agree,
used to be
I
very
like
expensive.
it.
All of a sudden they were
I'm not
doing
buying that Iroko
that
TV
of,
people, for example. Those Iroko TV or
No, but you can watch Yoko TV on DSTV.
Oh, that's true.
I'm surprised now, but I've been used to Roku TV for over two.
I'm those Iroko TV,
years
but I
now.
won't enter DSTV.
It's so good and easy to use, and you don't pay
I
just
don't,
2,000.
Africa is not for me.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not proud, I'm not one of their customers. Just
It's not strictly African movies they do on Yoko TV.
Yes.
Yes, Yoruba, Africa.
Yeah, that's the big problem now. That doesn't appeal to everybody.
It doesn't, I'm not, it's a niche market.
Absolutely, it's a niche market. Interesting. Okay, so now to talk about the 5 forces in more detail. The first one is threat of entry, and the elements that influence threat of entry. First is economies of scale. And of course, that refers to decline in unit cost as the absolute volume of output increases in a given time period. Two elements of economies of scale are minimum efficient scale and cost gradient. Minimum efficient scale just speaks to what is the minimum quantity that I need to produce, before I start to, as it were, make good profits. Minimum efficient scale. Then the cost gradient speaks to yes. Okay. Welcome. Then cost gradient speaks to what the initial capital outlay is like. So is it a very high cost initial capital outlay, and then so it costs you a lot of money to produce the very first item, and the subsequent one starts to decline, or whether the cost is incremental. So as I'm producing, as I'm increasing my production output, my cost is growing. That's what the cost gradient speaks to. So if you look at the graph, for instance, see the cost gradient for this one is high cost gradient. You can see it starts very high and takes a long time before it starts to decline. So this kind of production, there's a very high initial capital outlay. Unlike one that has a pretty flat cost gradient, that means that the fixed cost in that kind of production is pretty low. It's more of the variable cost. So as your output is increasing, that is also adding to your cost. So that's the difference between a high cost gradient and a low cost gradient. Minimum efficient scale is basically what is that minimum cost minimum quantity you need to produce, yes, to maximize your profit, or your cost and your profit, of course. Alright, and that affects your economies of scale. Economies of scale, essentially, like I explained, is the absolute volume of output increases in a given period. Your unit cost is going down. So these are the two elements that impact your economies of scale.
So in applying that to somebody who is trying to study an industry, can you apply? Because I know application is what they will ask us.
Yeah, so economies of scale basically is speaking to, it depends on the kind of industry it is. So an industry where you need to have produce a lot to make money. So it will be very useful for thinking of a good example, a low margin product. A low margin product, maybe like biscuits, but you can't sell. How much is one biscuit? Maybe 10 naira. Imagine on that, I don't know what it would be, maybe 2 naira at most. So for you to actually make money, you need to produce a minimum quantity. So the larger your market share, the better for you. It's about the function of how much you produce and how much you sell in an industry that will determine how much money that you make on that product. Unlike maybe an electronics, where how many do you produce in a whole year? Maybe 100,000 units. There are larger margins on each one. So in that kind of industry, it's not really about economies of scale. It's a small margin industry that should focus more on economies of scale. So in that kind of industry where you need to produce a large quantity before you can break even, before you start talking about making profits, in that kind of industry.
So if as an investor you still go ahead, what are the things you should consider in your strategy?
So you need to be sure that on day one, you are able to make that minimum efficient scale for you to make money. And be sure that you can acquire the market. Otherwise you have all these goods that you produce and you can't sell them. So in an industry where economies of scale is important, you know that you have a lot of competition. Unlike an electronics industry where if you are able to produce a very good product,
you don't really need to produce it.
It's not about quantity. So if you have your marketing strategy to get your products into the market and get people to switch to your product, then you are fine. But for that kind of small margin industry, you need to be, how do I scale on day one? So it takes us back to that introductory pricing. So maybe you bring your own biscuit,
or you skim.
Maybe you make your own biscuit very cheap. So everybody selling their own 10, I'll come with 5 naira. But it's not like it's poor quality. So it's equally good quality, but it's cheaper to gain market share.
I think in relating it to the first one we're talking about,
Yeah.
we can't lose the sight of the fact that we're talking about threat of entry. If you have the economies of scale,
Yes.
it makes it difficult for
somebody to
else to want to
come in. Yes.
Because
So
you also have
somebody.
to come in at that scale.
Yeah, absolutely. So the person on day one will need to build a very big factory to be able to meet and catch up with you. So if you have that kind of industry,
cost advantage.
absolutely, and you have a large market share already, somebody else coming into the industry will have to do something really different
So the threat
to
is
take over the
actually
market.
high. Threat of
So the threat is for the new
threat is for the new. No, it's more difficult for the new entrants.
Yeah, because
more
of the
difficult for the
cost
new.
involved,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if it's an industry that economies of scale is important, it reduces the threat of entrance.
Yes.
Next is economies of scope, which is related to economies of scale, but this one is speaking to how you have synergy across different product lines. So we can influence threat of entry and may obtain if the combined cost of two goods are less than the cost of separate and independent production and distribution of these two goods. So think about a typical multi-product company like a P&G, where they produce several things. They will enjoy a lot of economies of scope because for some of those products they can share maybe factory, share distribution channels. So you have a typical distributor of P&G who sells almost all of their products versus somebody who sells only one product. Do you understand? That's economies of scope. So we can share resources across board. So in a company like that, they can invest in certain skills because they know that that person is able to use their skill across different product lines versus if it was just one thing that they were producing. So that's what economies of scale is. The scope is about synergy across different product lines, or as it were. So economies of scope sources and effects are the same as economies of scale, where resources can be spread over higher levels of output, lowering the cost per unit associated with this resource. But the difference between scale and scope is, whereas for scale, we are speaking about the volume of a particular product, but for scope is the combined volume across the different product lines. Then increased output can also provide opportunities for increasing specialization and division of labor, like what the example I just gave, where you can actually hire maybe somebody who is maybe a design person. You can use that person's skills across all the different product lines versus if you had to pay for that specialized skill for just one product, which is pushing up your cost. Okay? So for example, McDonald's can produce both hamburgers and French fries at a lower average cost than what it would cost two separate firms to produce the same goods. I mean, they produce it in the same kitchen. I already gave the example of Procter and Gamble as well, where they have hundreds of products from razors to toothpaste. So they can afford, okay, I didn't give the example already, graphic designer or marketing experts across the different product lines, so to bring down the cost. The difference between economies of scale and scope is essentially that the gain from sharing resources over increased output levels in economies of scale is reflected in the move along the declining long-run average cost curve, while for scope is a shift in the average cost curve. That's more of an economic concept. Experience curve. It differs from economies of scale and scope in that the cost per unit falls in relation to the accumulated output of a good or service, not in relation to the level of output in a given period. So like economies of scale or scope is you are looking at maybe how much you produce within say a year. But for experience curve is your accumulated production over a period of time, maybe since you've been in existence for the past 10 years, for instance. So experience curve is speaking to the fact that the more you do it, the better you get at it. So you learn from experience. So you will have learned from your past errors. Yes, how can I do this more efficiently? So last year, because of this, I realized that, oh, I lost some money. Okay, so this year, I know now not to do it this way. So I can. So experience will help you with managing your costs better. Yeah? Another element of threat of entry is differentiation. Brand image may constitute a real barrier to entry where consumer health, safety, or welfare may be consideration. So you think about a brand that you trust them for maybe safety. For someone like you, I'm sure you can relate to that. There are brands that you guys use for your safety boots and all of those things. Because over the years, they've proven to be a reliable brand. And somebody new wants to come into that market, you need to prove yourself, essentially. And how do you do that? What are the chances that such companies who buy such safety products will be interested in experimenting? Did I really want to experiment and put people's lives at risk? Highly unlikely. So it will be difficult to enter that kind of market because you need to prove yourself. And how do you do that? They're not willing to give you a chance. So if you increase your, barrier to entry. Risk and costly capital requirement for entry. We talked about that extensively. Like the GSM market, you get a GSM license today. I don't know how much it costs, but I know it's in the billions, maybe hundreds of billions.
Yes, the last one, and you still bid.
You bid
Yes,
to get the license, and that's just license. So
It's like going
they'll say so.
presidency.
The FCC will set a minimum price. They'll not say
you
they
don't
have
say
only
bid.
one license or
Bid.
two.
So
Something.
3, 4 people are bidding.
No, no, it's bidding. Lowest price is $100 million. Start bidding. You just see.
The last time for this big guy it was 25 million, 24 million.
That's what it was. Not
Yes, dollars.
for the other one. 'Cause I know they want to start bidding for. They've been lobbying to
Nine
do mobile
mobile
banking.
Okay.
No, they've been lobbying. Those
To do
guys have
mobile
been lobbying
banking,
to do mobile banking. And I heard they will soon open
Make
that
it
one.
happen.
When they do that, on banks will suffer.
That's why CBN has been fighting the thing.
Yes.
Because you send banks out of the some banks will not even. I'm not sure they will survive.
Because Nigeria, unlike banks are supposed to lend and borrow, we don't do
Who
that
is
kind
borrowing?
of business in Nigeria. Banks don't
Very
lend
few
and borrow.
banks. Very few banks.
You give
are
them your
borrowing.
money, you store it there, you
Make
get
this
little
more
to nothing
interest.
for it.
They even charge you.
And
charge
then
you for keeping your money.
exactly, sometimes they won't charge you with all those COTs
Yeah.
there. I know that
Keeping
has,
your money.
I know you anyway, you're a banker.
You are
So.
deducting your money.
So mobile banking, what's the mobile banking aspect?
Mobile banking is like the way you have friends.
Very well will not
You
take.
can just be transferring
Will
money
not be banking.
and using the credits on your phone, quote and unquote, to pay for stuff. So you say when you use your ATM and all that,
Yeah.
you just take that your
Your
100,000 naira credits.
Yeah.
I'm just using credit for lack of a better
Is
word.
it airtime? Your airtime?
It's not going to be airtime.
It's only airtime.
Separate from your
So most
airtime.
banks have a mobile banking.
Yeah.
So most banks have a mobile
Right
banking,
now, yes.
Option.
Yes,
But
most banks have.
they
it
want
now.
to be competing with banks. So it will just be like the way you have mobile banking. Just like MTN will now have his own mobile banking.
Yes, so you can actually do transactions with your MTN line.
It seems they have it already.
They've not been able to do it.
Not fully.
They're not able to do it.
They can't do it.
They don't have
fully.
the license.
They don't. They haven't given them the permission to do it. Yeah. So, but they do.
To make life
You
So-
can't
easier for
transfer money
everybody.
from your MTN line to somebody in the village. You can't transfer money.
You can't. They don't think I try. You can, but you can't. But that's how you could share airtime.
You can share airtime, but you can only share like MTN
Airtime. But it's only airtime you can share.
Yeah.
Unlike if I could actually give you money that you can actually spend
Can't
on
buy
your
something
mobile
like
line. Yes. The way you can go and withdraw it, you can actually withdraw the
What are
cash.
the advantages?
It's just more
So-
competition. It's a benefit to us.
Competition, and it will make
Interest rates
banking
will
more
go up.
accessible to everybody.
Yes, and to make banking more accessible. Because a lot of people don't have bank accounts.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so that speaks to risky and costly capital requirements for entry. So where it's very high, it can deter entry into that industry. Switching costs. So when you think about switching costs, think about it in terms of what you need to do to change the brand that you use. Switching costs for, let me think of an example. Phones,
The cost of using a new product to you now.
a new toothpaste.
Yeah.
A new toothpaste,
Nothing.
there's no switching cost. I simply take up the next one and I use it. This one is finished, I throw it away and I take another one. There's no switching
Consumer
cost.
goods in general.
Consumer goods generally, there's really no switching cost. But think about a high-tech product like your solar inverter. If you want to change your solar inverter brand, for instance, the effort you're going to have to put in to remove the one that is there, get somebody else come and put it, install the new one and all of that, it might discourage some people from changing their brands.
The cost of buying a new iPhone.
There is any cost. It's not just for you to buy it and sign it.
No, the cost of changing from a Nokia to an iPhone.
That's not really a switching cost. Switching cost speaks more to.
For this, for
It
example,
is.
I have lots of songs on iTunes that I've invested, I don't know how much.
Yes, but you can use iTunes in Samsung on Android. Or let's correct me if I'm wrong. You can.
So to now just completely go off.
But yeah, switching cost doesn't have to be money. It can be pain.
It may just be the inconvenience.
It can be inconvenient.
Yeah, it can be the inconvenience. It's not necessarily, it's not always money. It's not always just the price of the product alone. So whether it's an expensive or a cheap product, secondly. I mean, if I want to switch from my car to a Mercedes Benz, it's going to cost me a lot of money, but I don't mind that switching cost. Or a Range Rover, I don't mind that switching cost. I'll gladly jump on it, So it's not inconvenient for me to drop the key of my current car and enter into the joint. There's really no switching cost. Yes, it will cost you money to buy the car, but there's no inconvenience. I'm not having to bear any inconvenience to.
Okay, why is switching cost is separate from
the actual cost of the item.
So it's the cost.
It's just the pain, the ease.
The ease of changing the brand.
From one thing to another.
Yes, the ease of changing my brand.
You might have the money to buy the new thing, but is it easy to just switch?
Change
Or the goodwill that you have gathered.
Yes.
Or maybe, or even if you think about something that maybe you need support services for.
Yeah.
So you buy a product that you need support for. If the support for this new one I want to buy is not readily available, how easy is it going to be for me to make do this new thing?
So maybe I have a Samsung fridge and I want to buy another.
That's only available in the US.
That's not available in the US. They might not have warranties here. They might not have
service
centers.
Centers. So all of those things are switching costs. The things you need to consider in changing your brand loyalty is the switching cost. And in my people, if it's an industry where there's a high switching cost, it might be a deterrent for new entrants into the industry because it will be difficult to extricate people from it. Even the DSTV example we gave. You know that if I need DSTV to go somewhere, I mean, not access to some of
new
this
decoder, new
installation. Think about when we had those giant satellite discs.
And so if you are a firm, you are going into such industry, at the decline stage, you will just die. It will be tough for you to be able to go into something else because of the costs.
Well, I mean so the switching cost may not really be from the point of view of the firm, maybe from me as an individual.
Okay. So, but in the long run, you as an individual who is a customer to the firm will still affect. Because if I can't meet your needs and you go, it's easy for you to switch to another product, then it will affect you.
Absolutely. If the switching cost is very low or it does not exist, then you have a problem because that means a new entrant can easily come in and collect your
That's
market.
what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so which is why, like you said, consumer goods, there's really no switching cost. I basically just change the brand. Today I buy this one, I don't like it, tomorrow I buy another one. No, I don't care. But if I'm thinking about certain things I need to do before I can change that thing, the inconvenience I need to bear, it might discourage me.
For example, we also shared discussion. You're a frequent flyer on Air France.
Aha, that's a very good
accumulated
example.
miles. You know that this particular trip, if you take it on Air France, maybe this is the flight you need to take to upgrade to silver or something or to go. And then for one reason you are thinking, should you take the everything possible to stay?
I think that's an excellent example because companies, airlines have realized that if it's about competing on price alone, there will be a problem. So they found a way to tie people down with accumulation of miles, so that you think about those miles before you switch.
Say you don't want anymore.
So there are people that they will die there or whatever it takes, no matter the airline. I know someone that he flies Emirates to the UK. That is how tied to Emirates he is.
Even retail stores now, like Ebano.
Yeah, they're all starting to do that, giving you loyalty cards. It's all part of discouraging the switch. So when you think about, if I go and buy these goods in this supermarket, I'm going to lose all these points that I will have earned. So I'll just go there. Not forgetting that it's possible I'm paying a little more than I will have paid in this other shop. Switching costs, that's what they're trying to do. Making it difficult for you to switch. Yeah, that's what it's.
That's almost the thing. That's their $100.
That they are prime. So they
When
use
you
that,
pay
they'll
money.
bobo you and say that you have
I want to
access
buy
to
something
it.
on
Yeah.
Walmart. I'll be like, this Prime.
I'd rather buy it from Prime.
Already.
And sometimes it might pay you, it might cost you a bit more, but you feel like
Yeah.
I'm benefiting something
Yes.
else. Okay, access to suppliers and
Sorry,
outlets, no
maybe
problem.
after class. So this Amazon, you can buy something and they bring it to your doorstep? Is it?
Well, for your, they deliver some stuff to Nigeria now.
They
Me,
deliver-
I did it
but
there when I was
sometimes it
thinking I
costs.
was in the US then. So now I still get things here, but I use like a shipping agency to bring it. However, they ship things to Nigeria, not everything.
No, I want to.
But some of those things are expensive. Shipping can be expensive on Amazon.
Yes.
Shipping to Nigeria
Not
can
all,
be
not
expensive.
all things are shipped.
Not even all, exactly. Not even all cheap. And even for those that ship, they can be very pricey.
I just feel.
So it must be worth your while.
It's risky. I want to see somebody who does it.
I've
No,
been doing
people
it
do it
for
too.
No, you can use
that.
I've been
Yeah.
for 6-7 years.
Which card are you using? Your foreign card or your?
No, I even use my normal Nigerian card.
You
I
can't
don't use
use
foreign
American
And it
card.
comes to your doorstep.
No.
So
not
what I
all.
do is
No,
that they
that's not
ship
the one I
it to a
know.
US
I
address.
know, I do that.
Mhm.
Like ASOS.
I want the one that will
ASOS comes to your
ASOS
address.
comes to your
Comes to your
address.
address.
AliExpress comes to your
Yes.
address.
Yes.
ASOS, AliExpress.
Yeah.
They deliver to your
They'll come to
door.
your
And you will
doorstep.
use your Naira card.
Yes, your
Yes.
Naira card.
As soon as we're done with this class, I want to know.
That's right.
Yeah, you're right.
Those
ASOS,
ones deliver
Nigeria,
to
it comes to your house.
Access to supplies and outlets, of course, if there are difficulties with that, then it might make it more difficult for a new entrant to come into the market. Then
Access to supplies
and outlets, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's not if there are very limited suppliers, very few suppliers in the market, and
And
some
they
of
are
the
already
and some of them
tied
have been
to-
tied down to
to existing
because
customers.
in that kind of industry where the raw materials is maybe not readily available and there are very few people who supply it. What a lot of people try to do is enter some kind of long-term contracts, some exclusive contracts, so that it's only me you sell to and not anybody else. So if you have maybe only 3 suppliers and there are 3 major players and all of them are taking 1 supplier each, you that you want to enter the industry, who is going to supply to you now? It will be more difficult.
Yeah.
So it will discourage entry into that kind of industry. Other cost advantage, particular cost advantage such as particular low cost process, possibly patented, where you have a patent for instance that gives you an edge. Government policy can also impact barriers. We talked about the GSM licensing process. It's government driven. It can be a barrier to entry. Exit barrier, we talked about that extensively. If it's not easy to leave the industry, I mean, you'd imagine why would exit barrier be an entry barrier to industry? You need to think about how you get out of the industry. If it will be easy to leave, then it might discourage you from entering in the first place. Because if it's a market, maybe it's a mature market, for instance, which I'm thinking decline might be in the horizon. So if I enter this market at this point, how do I get out? If it's going to be hard to get out, you might think again about entering that kind of industry. Expected retaliation. So where you have very strong, powerful players in the industry. So it's like somebody who comes into the GSM industry today, mobile phone industry today, and says, me, I'm coming to slash my own price in half. You know, you most likely will have serious pushback from the existing players. You might start a price war essentially. You know, there was a time one of them were constantly doing one promo. You always, you know, some reduced call rates, reduced, everything was reduced. So you enter in that kind of industry, you know that you're going to get a lot of retaliation if you attempt to come and undercut the existing players. Okay, so that's threat of entry. There's elements for rivalry.
For example, not necessarily all the 11 points, right?
If the question speaks with, I mean, as many as you remember. If the question is asking you about, you know, the elements of entry, as many as you remember, you need to speak to. Rivalry, it can be in terms of objectives. Is everybody gunning for market share or for profitability? Or in terms of channels, price competition, competition through advertising, or strength, whether it is weak or strong, consistent or fluctuating. Some of these things, I mean, as we look at them, surely it's all making sense. Relatively high fixed cost will increase rivalry. Can you imagine why?
You need to recoup
Yes.
the initial investment.
Yes, you spend a lot of money to start the business at all. So I will do anything to stay relevant and stay afloat in that industry to make at least some, if not all, my money back. So it will increase rivalry. But it's very low because so think about my pure water example. I don't know how much it costs to start a pure water business. I don't know, maybe 50k, 100k to have a water treatment plant, your bagging machine. It's not. I'm not sure anybody will die if they are unable to sell their water. They will probably just pack the thing up and move on. You know, unlike a mobile phone operator, the cost of even setting up all those your mast and all those things, yeah, it will not be that easy to just walk away and say, I'm not making money, Jerry, I'm not doing it again. Eh? Whatever it takes. Yeah. So to increase rivalry. Low growth, of course, when the market is slowing down, where the growth rate in the market is slowing down, it will increase rivalry because everybody is now jostling for. Remember our critical points? Critical point C, B, and C. Where for you to grow, you must take market share from somebody else. So it impacts how much the level of rivalry in the industry. High exit barriers, of course, similar to the one for entry as well. Where there are high exit barriers, people will tend to want to stay in that market and die there. Whatever it takes, I must make my money back. Differentiation and switching costs, we've spoken about that as well. Where differentiation and switching cost is very weak, people can easily dump your brand for the next brand. Rivalry will be very high. But if it's not that easy to switch, DSTV, I know that where are you even going to? What options do you have? I can afford to do Shakara, because hey, you don't have many options. Absence of a dominant firm. So what a dominant firm will typically do is sort of set the rules and will sort of dictate the tone of the competition. So if there's really no dominant firm, everybody is struggling and fighting for their own share of the market. That's for rivalry. First three, bargaining power of buyers. We talked about this a bit. Where you have one or a few major buyers, they will have more power over you because you don't have many options in terms of who buys your product. Buyer earns low profits. So when the buyer buys from you, what they use it for, they only make a small margin on it. You better not try to increase your price. Because once you do that, you immediately eat into my own profit, which is already small as it is. So think about your typical consumer goods. So like your flour mills of world and all of those things. The things that they produce are more typically low margin products. So if their suppliers wake up one day and say, look, I'm doubling my price, there will be problem. Because it immediately impacts on their business. Immediately. Yeah, so it will give them more power over you. Products represent a large proportion of the buyer's overall purchases. The bigger the purchase, the more sensitive the buyer is likely to be to the price. So you can't just increase your price anyhow because it will impact my business significantly. Standardized or differentiated products with low switching costs for buyers. So we've talked about standard products, your toothpaste. Where there's very low switching costs, very low, or okay, example is even talked about commodity market. Buyers can play one seller off against another, which is the feature of commodity market. So what I'm buying from you is the raw material that's readily available. So I'm buying sharp sand from you. So a lot of people that sell sharp sand. So if you don't play by my terms, I'll move to the next person. Because there's nothing special about your own sand, it's the same sand. Do you understand? So there's really nothing special. Buyers can threaten backward integration. We talked about that earlier as well. Where I can come to start producing the thing myself. That gives them more power over you. So I can say, if you won't sell to me at this rate, I have the capacity to start to do this thing myself. So you know that if you don't want to lose the business altogether, you might have to change your terms to suit the person. Alright, so bargaining power of suppliers is also similar, where the supplier group has only one or a few firms, where there are no close substitutes for the supplier's products. That will give the person more power. The supplier will have more power over the buyer. Where the products are important inputs to the buyer's business, such as Microsoft and Intel. Intel is a very important element of Microsoft's computers. The buyer industry is not an important buyer. If the buyer industry is the sole or is the most important consumer, supplier power may be weakened due to its dependence on the fortunes of the industry. But where there are many buyers, the supplier can afford to be insensitive to the effects of its policies on a particular buying industry. Suppliers' products are differentiated or there are switching costs for the buyer. Suppliers' power will be enhanced to the extent that it can lock in customers. Give examples of that. Supplier can threaten forward integration. So if supplier can threaten to become a buyer themselves, then it gives the supplier more power over the buyers. And the last one is pressure from substitute products. So if you think about like the example we gave of Coca-Cola buying over Chi, those drinks are substitutes for each other. Yeah. So when you have a lot of substitutes for a product, it can make it a barrier to entry into that kind of industry. So you want to start to produce carbonated drinks or juice or water, already 1,001 people that do that, and there are many options. So this your water that you want to produce, what's special about it? Why should I buy it? Versus all the existing options in the market. So when you have a lot of substitute to a product, it makes that kind of industry a bit unattractive. Except you're coming up with something differentiated. Tell people that this is your own water. You can replace all your lost minerals and whatever it is. Maybe if you're able to sell that, people might switch to you. If not, you'll be lost in the sea of options. Yeah? So that's the pressure from. So this is also just trying to tabulate it to make it easy. I think we've come to the end of the first module. Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry. Game theory perspectives. Okay. So we'll just go over this one very quickly. So game theory is a technique used in the analysis of competitive strategies. One of the most celebrated models in the game theory is the prisoner's dilemma. I'm sure you've heard about this prisoner's dilemma before. Was it in marketing or in SP? I'm not sure which one I'm talking about. It's in SP. Prisoner's dilemma. It just speaks to what the dominant strategy would be for. So this prisoner's dilemma is talking about where you have like two people who have robbed a bank and they've been arrested. Now they're in two separate rooms, being interrogated by the police, and they have the option of either confessing or not confessing. They're not allowed to speak to each other, so they cannot agree what to do. So they are working. They are separated from one another, but they need to both either decide whether they want to confess or not confess. Now these are the options. If Joe confesses and Pat also confesses, they both get 10 years. If Joe does not confess but Pat confesses, Joe will get 15 years but Pat will be free. If Joe confesses but Pat does not confess, Pat will get 15 years but Joe will be free. If Joe does not confess and Pat too does not confess, they will both get 1 year each, because we strongly suspect that they did it, but they are refusing to confess, but we'll still throw them in jail for a year. So if you were either Joe or Pat, which one would you more likely want to do?
Most likely they will all confess.
You will most likely want to confess. Because it looks like it's only in confessing that the chance of being free is even there.
Because the key thing is that you don't know what the other person is doing.
Absolutely.
So if you keep quiet, yes. If somehow you could communicate with the other person, obviously your answer would be not confess.
We both agree not to confess.
Because both of you get 1 year and escape, or you answer one thing. But it pays you not to confess. Or rather, it pays you to confess. If that person doesn't confess, you are free. If that person also confesses, like you,
both end up in jail.
Even though it's not the best option.
Exactly, and that's the concept of the game theory and the prisoner's dilemma. It's speaking to what the dominant strategy is. Looking at this, the dominant strategy is to confess. It's not the best option, but from my own limited view and what I know and the options available to me, I think I am better off confessing. The ideal situation would be if we could both agree to keep our mouths shut. If we could both agree to keep our mouths shut, They will both get 1 year each and will be fine. But that option is, as it were, not there. So I cannot, I don't know what you are going to do.
Can't trust what you do.
I don't know. What if I choose to confess and then you choose not to confess? What if I don't confess and then you go and confess? I'll be the one that will be in trouble. So it looks like I'm better off just confessing. Both of you will most likely confess. And that's what it speaks to. It says no matter what Joe does, part will be better off confessing. So confessing is the dominant strategy. Joe has exactly the same logic because he faces exactly the same set of choices. I believe that if I confess, I'm better off. So confessing is the dominant strategy. So now applying this to business, where if you look at it, you can apply this into different strategic situations, including advertising, pricing, innovation, and investment decisions, where in a hypothetical situation where we cannot work together. In a hypothetical situation where we cannot work together, we cannot agree, we cannot communicate. So you are doing what you are doing in total isolation of what I am doing. And then I have these same options. The dominant strategy will be to advertise. Not the best solution, but because I'm not sure what the other person will do, and I cannot communicate with the person, and I cannot ask the person what do you want to do or what are you going to do, then I'll do what I think is in my best interest, which will be to be advertised, which might not be actually in the best interest overall. So it's clear that the application of this thing in real life is limited, because in real life you can actually communicate. So in the prisoner's dilemma, the following specific conditions must be met: simultaneous decision making by both players, accurate knowledge of the payoffs attached to each set of choices, no communication between the players, no social ties and obligations, no history to the game, no past onto this situation, and no future beyond outcomes identified. They are not realistic. So it's really a theoretical concept, prisoner's dilemma, because it's not said. It's a very special case with limited implications for competitive strategy, because repetition, familiarity, negotiation, trust, loyalty, kinship, social pressure, and so on and so forth are all real life features that can lead to cooperative and mutually beneficial outcomes in practice. So it's really a theoretical concept, because in reality those conditions cannot always hold true. At least you need to talk to in most industries, some form of association where we come together to talk. So I can have an idea of what you are planning to do. Just what I mean. So you can have a sense of what your competition is doing. Maybe not in full, but you have a sense of what's going on. So you're not in isolation. Yeah? So that leads us to strategic moves. It's something that's intended to alter the beliefs or expectations of others in a direction favorable to you. Its fundamental characteristic is that you deliberately limit your freedom to maneuver. Strategic moves follows the concept of making future threats or promises. Empty threats and promises may actually damage the credibility of those making them, rather like the boy crying wolf. Threats and promises made in the future being disbelieved if those making them have been guilty of empty threats or promises in the past. So the intangible asset of credibility is an important element in strategic battles. If a firm can make its threats or promises credible, it may be more likely to exercise control over a market and its rivals. There are many ways that this can be done, and we'll look at them. So strategic moves really is about things that you do as a firm, strategies that you choose to employ as a firm that gives you credibility in the market, to make people believe you. So that if I say, so it's like having a product and I say to people, if you buy this my product, you are sure that you use it for 3 years without having to fix it or repair it in any way. People have tried it, and over the years they've come to believe that truly this product, it lasts for 3 years without any issues. That's a strategic move, yes, because you have built a reputation for producing a product that lasts for at least 3 years. Yeah. So one of the options is reputation. When you do anything to protect your reputation as a firm, your brand is very important to you. So you do anything to protect your reputation. Like when you have an example that we have in the text was this company Cadbury, where they recalled about 1 million bars of chocolate because of salmonella infection. Now they could have pretended like they did not know that problem existed, but they had to do it because they need to protect their reputation. It was important to them protect their reputation, that we will not deliberately put out a bad product. That's, it's sending out a very strong message to the market that our reputation is important to us. So contract as well is another way where you can enter into a contract with the person. The terms and the conditions of the contract. You put in certain terms and conditions in the contract to protect yourself. So where you have, but the challenge you have with contracts is that you can never be 100% exhaustive. No matter how tight your contract is, it's still possible that you might still have a loophole that somebody can still exploit. And then it brings us the concept of transaction cost, which we'll still deal with in later modules. Specialization is one variant of a range of strategies that communicates credible commitment to a specified course of action by deliberately restricting the options open to the company. It's like you saying, look, I will do this, I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to do it to the very end. I'm specializing in this area. Actually, it is an area that is not very popular. So it's like a niche market, and you choose to stay in that niche market. People realize that you are serious about this niche market, and you're going to stay there as long as there is demand for that service or product. It's also sorry. Is Apple a specialized service? I'm not sure I'll describe Apple as a specialized.
You were saying that unlike Samsung that has lower range phones, mid-range phones, so you can say 20K Samsung phone, 30K.
Okay.
But Apple has focused on the
high-end market.
They will never do a cheap option.
Okay, well, I guess so. Trying to think of another example. I guess you can look at it that way. But I like to think about it more from a really highly niche market where you do something that is not very common.
Yeah.
Maybe let's see. So maybe look at like the people that make materials for X-rays, for instance. I don't know how many producers of X-ray materials there are in the market, but I don't imagine that there are very many. Yeah. It's a highly specialized market. It's a highly specialized market, but you always have a market for it. Hospitals will always need it, except of course a new technology comes that replaces X-rays.
But in the textbook they refer to wrestling, and I was like, they said wrestling has never died. There's a market where
that specialized market
continues on and on.
So you have investments. Rivals are likely to think that a firm can be easily chased out of the market if they are seeing that the firm just committed major resources to it. Incrementalism is about building a relationship over time. Build up commitment slowly, for instance. Two firms cooperating to develop one region of the market. So you want to enter into a long-term contract with the person, but you don't want to enter the long-term contract on day one and tie yourself down. So we'll do it bit by bit. We want to go all out, but we'll first start with this small place and see how we do. If we work together well, no issues, then we can expand our reach. That's what incrementalism is. Hostage is where a party may be less likely to act opportunistically regarding one specific agreement if it could have damaging implications for other agreements signed with the other party. So when I have entered into a series of agreements with the person to work together in different areas, I know that there are other agreements tied to this one. So I will not want to spoil this relationship because I know that if I do anything wrong with this one, it will impact or jeopardize all the other agreements that I've entered in with you. So it's some form of hostage. In a social context, this one speaks to how we do it. So if you're in an industry where, for instance, your word is your bond, once I have said it, so think about your typical Igbo market where people are always collecting things from each other because they know that that's the way we all do it, and we'll settle each other. Nobody's going to, we're not afraid to release your goods to the next person because that's the trend, that's the social context in which we operate. social context. So you don't want to jeopardize that. You don't want to collect something from your brother and not pay. Because tomorrow, when you need somebody to release this to you, nobody will release you because you've done something, you have messed up in the past. Yeah. So that speaks to social context. Okay, so we're done with module 1. I think it's a good time to break for lunch. Any questions? Anything we need to go over again? Anything that is not clear?
I just start first.
Alright, so I guess we are back for lunch. When should we come back? What time do you want to end the class today?
So how many modules?
Do we
Oh, there are 7 modules. Oh, today I'd like to do at least 2 modules.
So we want to finish.
If we can finish 3 o'clock, I don't mind.
That's highly unlikely.
So we started at 11 and 2 hours for one module, another 2 hours and more.
So we come back to, we take,
Let's come back at 2, not back at
So we
2.
can
Let's
do
start.
we finish module 2.
Except she wants to do
Whenever that is.
Or we could bring our lunch here.
No, there's time. That's
There's
what
time.
There's time. We can come back. She's only doing 1 month module.
I want to be there. So.
That's not
Otherwise,
correct.
let's say we
There's
come
no
back
class
on-
on Saturday.
we come back on 45.
So this is on Sunday we
Maybe 145.
Fine.
Maybe 145. Let's do 145 so we can buy a bit more
I
time.
have
So we have Thanksgiving today.
I haven't gotten it today.
Oh, you haven't?
Can you imagine?
I sent it immediately now. Oh gosh. That is it.
Sorry, is there something? Was it the show?
Sorry, man.
Is there something to discuss?
I didn't get
Is there
that.
something?
Oh, yeah. So give me your email address. I'll send it to you.
Sorry, did you say you sent already to that one?
Yes, what's your own email address? Maybe you forgot
LXTL.
to.
Today, you sent it today. Right?
Yeah. What's your email address?
LXTL. I haven't checked. Actually.
Okay, LX. How? Okay, yes. Then you should have it.
Let me check.
You said you didn't get yours. Are you sure? Check
No, I
it.
said I haven't checked.
I think
No.
it's, my phone is updating.
Because I sent it.
Okay.
So you stay recent. I don't have any money.
But you got Ayo's mail from yesterday, right? So I just did reply all.
Maybe I should wait a while. Very much. Very much. Sorry. Thank you. There's no dots in it. There's no dots. Together.
But that lunch is not ready.
Yeah.
It's not ready.
It's not ready.
No, it's.
But I told them to call. Let's know if they're on their way. Then we'll stop. We'll not go. But if they're not on their way, we just have to.
Yes, Peter. So should we start? Should we start? Since they are not here.
They said they are
Let's not be wasting on. Continue.
Go ahead.
We should continue to the point. Peter, we are going to continue to the So
You did that hungry, sorry.
No, he's even saying thank you, Jesus. That we
Oh,
started.
right.
No, I was actually saying thank you Jesus that they didn't score us.
Oh. You are reading my video.
I'm very much fine, yeah. They almost scored.
Okay, so let's just carry on.
Sorry, let me change the station because my mind.
Sorry?
I said, let me change the station because I'll keep looking there.
But it's not a live match now.
Is it that one?
Okay, so module 2, strategies for competitive advantage. This speaks to your generic strategies for marketing and SP. The 3 main generic strategies: cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. Those are the 3 generic strategies. Competitive strategy can add value by driving a wedge between demand and cost, so enhancing profitability. I mean, normal accounting, profit is different between your income and cost. So the wider that gap is, the more profitable you are, and the thinner that gap is, the less profitable you are. So, but for a cost leadership strategy, where you probably have very low margins, and where you have low margins, you know that one, you need to keep your costs down, and you need to increase your volumes as much as possible for you to stay profitable. Yeah? Okay, so for a cost leadership strategy where the firm tries to become the low cost producer in the industry, differentiation strategy is where a firm tries to become unique in its industry in characteristics valued by customers. It's very important that it must be in features that are valued by customers. If you try to differentiate in an area where nobody is interested, you are just wasting your time. You are wasting time. So there's no point. You'll be wasting time and resources. So you ensure that in differentiating, make sure that it is something that matters to the customer. So I think one of the things examples I thought about when I was thinking about this was, if you do you produce toilet roll and you are very particular, you have maybe multicolored rolls. If customers are not interested in the colors, they rather have their white rolls because it gives them a sense of it's clean. And then you go and make your own in funny colors. That might be the only reason why you are black. That's even worse. Yeah, so just to give you a sense of what I mean by make sure it is in features that are valued by the customer in differentiating. Don't waste time differentiating with something that nobody is interested in. To be a waste of your time. Then focus strategy is where the firm designs a strategy to target a narrow segment or a niche within an industry by 2 areas. So I think that's a good example of the Apple example we used, where they obviously focus on the high-end markets. That's their focus. They're not interested in the low end of the market. You low-enders that don't have money, please go and buy another brand. You cannot find anything with me that fits your budget. Okay? So, and for focus strategy, you can also either have cost focus or a differentiation focus, in which cost focus is where the firm tries to achieve a cost advantage over its competitors in that niche. And bless you. And differentiation focus is in which the firm seeks a differential advantage in that segment. So you differentiate yourself in that segment. That's a differentiation focus. Of the cost advantage you are seeking in that segment, that's a cost focus. Difficulties facing the firm trying to pursue competitive advantage. Number one, which I think is the most popular one, is trade-off between costs and differentiation. Do you agree? There's usually a trade-off. Because it typically costs you money to differentiate. So how easy is it for you to keep costs low while you're trying to differentiate? There's usually that trade-off between the two. And I think it's an important point to make. Porter says firms should seek proximity with its competitors in areas that are not being pushed as potential sources of competitive advantage, whether it's a cost leadership or is a differentiation strategy. What that means is, if for instance we are pursuing a cost leadership strategy, so maybe it's a typical consumer goods industry, and we all produce basically the same thing. But the edge I have as a producer is that I'm the cost leader. So my goods are the cheapest in the market, not in terms of quality, but in terms of pricing. What Porter says is that seek proximity with your competitors in areas that are not being pushed as potential sources of advantage. So back to our toilet roll example, there's no point wasting extra money to try to differentiate my toilet roll by coloring it black if it's not going to give me any edge in the market. So in terms of differentiating my product, I will stay within what everybody else is doing in the industry if it's not going to give me an edge. Do you understand what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Same thing for differentiation. In terms of when we are pursuing a differentiation strategy, so like your mobile phone, so everybody is differentiated, my features are different from yours, I should still try to benchmark my costs with competition. I should not go out and in my bid to differentiate, pile on so much cost, then that I stop being competitive.
So this proximity that
With competitors, it applies to both strategies, whether it is cost leadership or differentiation strategy. If it's cost leadership that we are running in that's the game in the industry, I need to ensure that the features of my product or service still match, approximate with my competitors in the things that don't make me stand out. So I won't end up spending more money in a bid to differentiate my product in an area that nobody thinks is important.
In the area that are not being pushed.
Yes, so it's not an important area. So it's a cost leadership strategy. But of course, our products are not identical, or even if they are almost identical, there'll still be something about my products that will make you prefer my brand, for instance. But there's no point wasting time trying to differentiate my products in an area that is not going to give me any edge over my competition. That's for cost leadership. Even for differentiation, the proximity would be with respect to cost. So I should still try to keep my costs within, what my competition is doing. So I shouldn't now spend so much money trying to extra differentiate in something that nobody thinks is important, to the point where my goods now become so expensive that nobody is willing to buy it.
Lose the competitiveness.
Yes. Second point is being stuck in the middle, where you are pursuing more than one generic strategy in the same area. Point number 3 is there is usually only one cost leader in the market. There's usually there's always somebody who's leading the market. When we are pursuing a cost leadership strategy, there can be only one cost leader. There can be only one. So if you want to come into that market to take over that position, then that means you need to take over that person's position as the cost leader. But there can't be more than one cost leader in the market. So it suggests that cost leadership may be more difficult to achieve than differentiation. So if you enter into a market that is already highly dominated by a cost leader who has a majority market share, and you want to enter that kind of market, you might be better off just doing a differentiation strategy. Because except you have the muscle to unseat that cost leader to take over the person's market, if you don't have that muscle, then you might be better off just differentiating your own product. So people know that my own toilet roll is a little more expensive, but this is the reason why it's a little more expensive. Do you understand? If your product is identical with the cost leader and yours is more expensive, why should people buy your own? Why? You have to differentiate. So you need to position your product as slightly differentiated because there's already a cost leader. But if you can unseat the cost leader, you have what it takes. The market, the muscle, the money, the everything. By all means, you can unseat the leader. But if not, if there's already a cost leader in the market, you're better off just differentiating your product. There's sustainability. It's important that your strategy, whichever one you choose to employ, is sustainable in the long run. Alright, so that leads us to the value chain. I think it's also a concept in SP. Yeah? Value chain.
Yes.
Value chain. The value chain in marketing. I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Value chain in marketing. I don't remember that.
I remember it was in SP.
Yes, it was in SP. You know, Ayo dwelt on
There's a
lot.
bit of it in
Marketing?
place.
What?
In place under the
Okay.
focus.
People place.
Oh, other place. Oh, okay. Oh, right.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, alright. But I guess it just didn't dwell on it very much.
Yeah.
So the value chain breaks the firm down into its component activities to identify actual and potential sources of competitive advantage. A value chain analysis is usually applied at SBU level. That's like a standalone company.
Yeah.
It identifies physically and technologically separable activities. It separates out activities which may have an impact on cost or differentiation advantage. So your typical value chain: distribution, marketing, R&D. The value chain can be looked at, can be used to look at linkages within the chain itself to check out how the chain is configured and how it's contributing to competitive advantage. It can also be used to look at linkages between value chains to see if and where shared activities contribute to added value. I mean, that's a main sense of economies of scope, where you have like a multi-product line business. You know, each product will have its own, as it were, value chain, but where you can actually have shared resources across that value chain can give you a competitive edge. Remember the example we gave of Procter and Gamble, where they have many product lines. Each of those product lines typically have their own value chain, because especially where they have different raw materials, different consumers and all of that, so their value chain will be typically different. What it takes to produce toothpaste cannot be exactly the same thing as what it produces diapers. So they are different product lines. Yeah, so they will essentially have different value chains. But where there can be linkages across those value chains, then it can give them an edge. They can save money, for instance, on distribution, where they can have one person distribute all their goods, for instance. If there are any shared raw materials, for it can also help them where they have indivisible products. So maybe like a really big factory where they can have one section producing the toothpaste, another section producing the. So all of those things speak to linkages across value chain. All right. These links may be vertical with suppliers and buyers, or horizontal, which collaborative arrangements with other firms at the same stage. Such links with other firms may help to create or reinforce competitive advantage for the firm, e.g. where you have clusters. So clusters typically will be where you have firms that are geographically located in the same area, and so they sort of benefit from being in that area. Like a computer village. I know you guys are an ideal example of a cluster, but so or Silicon Valley in the US, where you have what's up?
We called Kishra. She's in the school. She traveled for
So people will be hungry today.
So
Travel for the next
I'll
one.
just
Yeah.
I'll take the order so that we're going to buy from either on Cash or Chicken Republic.
Okay.
Please give your order.
Chicken Republic, rice, fried rice, and 12 rice and chicken. Then Makas, local, you have rice, you have beans, you have swallow and the rest. Thank you.
Yes.
I'll come back for this.
Okay, so yeah, talk about clusters. I was saying, I don't know if Computer Village is the best example. I said with Silicon Valley, where you have a lot of tech companies in the same area. You sort of rub off on each other, they can benefit from each other, you have access to, so maybe a hardware designer, a hardware technology company in that place will have easier access to the customer, the user interface designers that are in that same area. They have access to a larger pool within the same area. So it just makes it easier for them to compete. They will have a competitive advantage than a standalone technology company in the middle of nowhere. So in practice, a firm's competitive advantage may be attributable to how the various activities are organized together, and it may be difficult or impossible to identify a critical activity as the source of this competitive advantage. So it's sometimes, a lot of the times really, it's a combination of the whole value chain and how it is structured and organized and arranged that gives you that edge. It may be hard to say this is the very thing. Maybe it is distribution that gives us the edge, or it's how we purchase our raw materials that gives us the edge. Sometimes it's very hard. It's usually the whole mix that gives you the competitive advantage. So that's the challenge with value chain analysis. So an alternate approach is the capabilities approach, which is a resource-based approach that tries to identify the capabilities as a potential source of a competitive advantage to the firm. Capabilities are a set of related activities which a firm does well compared to other firms, e.g. Canon in optics and P&G in marketing, Walmart in retailing. So they have capabilities in retailing. Now the advantage of the capabilities approach is that it does not rely on a purely bottom-up analysis of competitive advantage by sifting through all the activities in the value chain one by one. Instead, it tries to identify the areas of activities that constitute distinctive competencies or core competencies of the firm that help provide it with sustainable sources of competitive advantage. So it's sort of like differentiating it from the value chain analysis. Value chain analysis is trying to look at the value chain and trying to find where the advantage comes from. Instead, we are looking at the competencies of the firm. What's that thing that they do uniquely well that gives them an edge in their industry? Next is roasted chicken. Right. Sorry. So the core competencies should display two features. One, it should be firm specific and difficult or impossible to imitate. I don't know about being impossible to imitate though. I don't know what is that thing that is impossible to imitate.
Difficult to imitate.
It's more of difficult in my view. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that there's really nothing that is absolutely impossible. I mean, so if you think of maybe Coca-Cola and this their secret ingredient or secret recipe, for instance, maybe it has not been replicated, but there are very many options that are close enough, in my view. Some people think nothing like Coke, no matter what you do, but really, can you really say there's any strategy that is impossible to imitate?
I think it's still the why iPhone, for example, is what it is. Today. In terms of linking everything within their iOS.
So, but is that impossible to imitate? Is it?
If it's been that very possible, someone else will have come with a clear version of this. Maybe till now, but also in pharma, for example, the process of producing, especially the biotech product, is to a larger extent original. And that's why they will call whatever else you are bringing, they call it biosimilar. It's similar, but it's not
different.
the same thing. First, yes, you protect it with a patent over the years, and then towards the end of the patency, you see copies being made.
Yeah.
Of course, the original
Never be
owner
the
will
same.
always tell you
There's
it's
nothing
not
quite
the same.
like it. Okay, well, I mean, honestly, I always struggle with that concept of something is impossible to imitate, because I don't know that there is. So maybe for some people, like the actual example you gave, maybe it's not worth their while. Is the reason why they have not imitated it. Maybe it will cost too much. But is it that it is impossible? Do you know what I mean? Is it that it's impossible, or is it just that? Sorry, or is it just that maybe it's just going to cost them too much? Eh?
I think we get the concept, the idea.
Give you money, right?
Just want to do next.
Okay. And the problem with a simplistic application of the capabilities approach, some problems with it. One, the warning flag. Computer analysis is from the configuration of the entire value chain and not just one element. For example, the whole of the value chain of the internet retailer Amazon is dedicated to communication with potential customers about products they may be interested in. So we can't say there's just one thing that they do very well. It's actually a combination of everything that makes them stand out and successful. Distinctive capabilities can be overgeneral and not tell us anything about the actual sources of competitive advantage. So for instance, they will say 3M that their distinctive capability or core competence is in innovation. But what exactly does that mean? What does innovation mean? What is it that makes 3M such a successful company? If you say it's innovation, what is it? What exactly do they do so well? What is innovation in that context? Is it in terms of coming up with unique products, or is it the quality of their products, or are they always the first to come up with a certain product or whatever? I don't know. So sometimes it's a bit too general when you just say, oh, this is what this person does very well. So what does that mean? So even the Walmart example and retailing. So Walmart is very good at retailing. So what exactly about their retailing makes them stand out? What is it? Is it the way they manage their inventory? Or is it their customer service? Or is it their price? It's a bit too general to just say that their core competence is retailing. Identifying distinctive competencies entail a high degree of subjectivity, and I'm sure you'll agree. I mean, we two of us can look at the same company and think, I think that they're better at this thing. So what would you say the core competence of Apple is?
Just brownie the thing.
I don't think they do anything well. Come on now.
Yeah.
That sounds like beef.
No, their screens are not
Today you
better.
really have viruses.
Their phones are not better.
You said they rarely
Their
have
cameras are
viruses.
not better.
So that means their products are
It's
more
in it.
For
superior.
me, I would
They
say
don't have
I'm not a big
viruses.
fan, by the way.
Just last week, there was a bug that you could even hack into people's. Remember,
Never.
it came out.
Never.
They do. They have a brand. So
Never.
it's
Sorry, don't have
perception.
viruses.
So you perceive them as not having viruses, but they do.
No, but I'm talking from experience.
So
Unlike other ones I have in the house where I have to most times have to give it out for somebody to remove the virus.
So-
I'm telling you.
So in
I'm
in,
not
in the
saying
beginning,
I'm not. They're not paying.
no, you
Yeah.
have a point. So in the beginning, because Microsoft is by far the most popular PC, so therefore the viruses and all those people
Everybody was
by
focused
far
on them.
will do Microsoft. The same way if I create my own operating system now, you will not see any virus there because nobody has my time. With time, as Apple is getting more popular, like the recent one they had with this their phone, where it was so easy. It was all over the internet, though they've corrected it now. You could hack into anybody's phone
Yes.
and listen to their conversations. So with time, people will focus on that operating system.
But still, I would say, as much as I'm not a big fan, their system seems a lot impenetrable, kind of. Within their close, okay, if you have your iPod, your Mac, or whatever, it integrates, but with anything external, no, you will not get to easily pair it with. And then you want to send something from a Bluetooth, I mean, with a Bluetooth.
But that is distinctive competence. That is competence.
It's part of for you to, okay, I used to have this. I purchased music and all. I cannot use it with my Android. Office gave me this. The same thing I have on this, I have on this.
And it's customer loyalty.
So it's all part of, this is not very mobile for me, but I cannot use this with it in any way. So if I want to, of course I'm a Samsung person, if I want to at all costs stay with the mobility, then I'll go in to say,
You know what? You know it's funny. The same thing you're saying that makes you not want to, that makes you use this is the same reason why I don't use an iPhone.
that's you.
I don't like the fact that what I have here, I can't use it in the.
You
I like
have-
the freedom to move.
You have
You mean what you have where?
So Apple forces me to buy into their ecosystem. I have to use iTunes for music. If I want to transfer stuff, other than what do you guys call that stuff? Not FaceTime. If I want to quickly transfer stuff, basically I cannot take. So my phone now, if I want to collect this stuff now, I can connect it to a laptop. This is my phone, and connect it to this laptop and transfer it. It's like a flash. I can take music from there. I can give her music on this phone. I can't do all these things I just mentioned with an iPhone.
It's a strategy for
For
them.
me,
We
that's
want
why
to keep
For
the
you, for it's possible. Do you know?
It's not. It's possible, but I have to go through long-winded. I have to go through iTunes. I have
It's
to
because I know
crack
patient.
and all. Yeah, I'm not. That's
to,
not. Why
to, a
don't you do all
larger
that?
extent, to a larger extent, they want to keep the loop such that, okay, I want to buy this, I go for MacBook.
I think we should continue now.
You want to buy TV, buy Apple TV, such that everything is same. So to them, it's
It's a strategy that works for them. Yeah, that's fine.
You'll catch them. They begin to feel it now. Because what you get is that you reduce the incentive to. That's where their sales are beginning to dip. Because there's very little need for someone that has an iPhone 8 or 9 to buy the new iPhone 10. That's why. What additional functionality are you adding?
Peter,
It's the same thing for
you'll be
Samsung.
amazed.
What functionalities you get when
However,
the
if
Samsung phone?
the Samsung if the new phone comes, right, I can afford to splurge for it because I know that I can still move. So, for example, I used to use an HTC before. Now I'm using Samsung. Tomorrow, if HTC whatever comes up, and I feel they have one thing, I don't know what it is, but if they have something that this Samsung cannot do,
I'll
go
switch.
for it.
You'll be amazed there are millions out there that if it's not Apple, it's nothing else for you.
Absolutely.
You can trade in.
Somebody will tell you because it's user friendly, they prefer it. Somebody will tell you it's because you don't have to use a flash every time you're using it. You don't need a flash for nothing. Somebody will tell you because
you don't need a flash for you don't need a flash.
I'm telling you that they have their own market.
Easily get bugged.
You don't like it. It doesn't mean that other people don't like
Like
it.
can
They have their
get
market.
viruses.
American intelligence
I've used my
system
phone for
still
years. I've never
have
had
to-
one bug or.
they can't
They have their
penetrate.
market. It's not for everybody.
Exactly.
They have their market. And they
Like me,
are,
I can't
If
even
you
get
are looking
if you
for-
see any
if
other
you don't want
company,
penetration, you're not using
try
BlackBerry.
it for-
But iPhone, trust
If
me,
my
that's, if
iPhone
it's that one,
gets
you will be
my
scared.
WhatsApp
If it's iPhone, just don't worry, CIA is watching.
I used to have.
Anyway, it's not you they are looking
Okay,
for.
guys, let's move on. Okay, so a distinctive competence can turn into a distinctive liability because of obsolescence. Where that thing that you do so well can tomorrow work against you if there's been maybe a better technology or a better process that comes into the market, and this your process or this thing you do so well is no longer relevant. E.g., Kodak. After a while, if you don't move with the times, you can become, obsolete. And the danger in assuming that the phrase distinctive capabilities means distinctive firms, it may be difficult to identify unique, non-replicable distinctive competencies in some industries. There are some industries where we all basically do the same thing, e.g., all industry, all of us are drilling oil, bringing out crude oil. What exactly is it that makes you differentiate one brand from another? They're basically doing the same thing. So sometimes it's difficult to identify that distinctive capability.